All right, I started. So, Jody, what I was explaining is like how I see this, and the problem statement being we need a town office, right? So then I'm walking through, how did we get to the point where we're at with, we don't have a town office, you know, right? So we know the insurance is gone, and that's why we don't have a town office, right? So then I was explaining, and you were in the office today when I told you that I called an insurance company about, you know, what is the possibilities, what do we need, what do we have? So we're at that level, right? And that's where we're at now to catch everybody up. So we know that we lost that, right? So then there's other economical contributors that come from that building, right? So say we get it, insurance back on it, and then we get it fixed, and we get the basement fixed. How much does it cost to run, you know, the heat and all those things compared to, but also we're renting a building at this point. So these are the rabbit holes that I need to go down, and I need help going down. Because the purpose statement is to establish options for the voter to make an educated decision on at the end of when it's time to vote for it, right? That's what it is. It's not, we all have our opinions. I have my opinions. And I would probably shock you if I told you my opinions. I probably would shock Jody. But we all have those, but we have to build these options and give black and white educated answers to the voter. So the voter knows what is coming out, and they can vote on what they think is the best approach to go forward. That's how I would like to see this go. Okay, so option one that I've come up with, and it's in here, if anybody wants them, I can hand some of them out. Can you pass those out?
Are they all the same?
There should be a couple pages, but there's 10 different copies. I didn't know I was gonna have this many in the forum, but that's fine, that's personal. Yeah.
Yeah, we can share.
And all it literally is me throwing spaghetti on the wall at this point, right? So first step is insurance. So I called to see about insurance, right? I've called the engineer firm saying, hey, what do we need for a report going forward? Because we have some of the other information on the new build, right? And we have that stuff. But for now, we need to dissect what we do with this building. Because that's what drives the other end of it. If we don't keep it, we need a new building. Well, what does that new building look like? Is it purchase A.E. Robinson? Is it purchase the building that's down here that we're already in? Is it to build a new building up here? Is it to build a new building at the park? Right? I mean, those are all concepts.
Do we have a lease on that building that we're renting now?
Yes.
How long is the lease for?
It's from year to year.
Year to year.
Yeah.
So we do have a year lease, so when they brought up the other day that, well, gee, should they sell the building, we're out, is there like a codicil in there?
No.
No.
Yes,
Yes, no what?
there is a CASA or whatever you want.
Contingency.
Right, as far as, if it's sold, it can stay in there.
Okay, we can stay there, it's a year.
Yeah.
Year we done, okay.
That's,
They're all the same.
I don't know, I think it's a year. You can stay there.
Yeah. Usually they're a year.
Yeah.
Pretty long.
I'm pretty sure.
So for now, we have a home, right, but it's not the home. So the options would be, insurance, get that fixed, stay where we're at, or donate, and then it's in here, is to donate the building to a nonprofit, and I started breaking those categories out. So I've only just started breaking stuff out. And now that we have a committee, we can start dissecting and talking about, if somebody's heart is really on, donate it to the Historical Society. How does that look, But then it still needs to be fixed. And it needs to be brought up, So those are all things that need to be discussed. if we retain it and we do, and the town decides to vote on it because they like the option, what do we do with the extra space? Is there a leasing option, and then we become, you know, landlords? Or do we make it part community center, you know, and develop some sort of recreational, aspect to the rest of the building, or adult ed, or, a veteran affairs outreach center, any of those things, right? So these are all the concepts. I know everybody's like, oh my god, I thought we were just gonna talk about what we gotta do with the building, but if we don't get to this basis of how the numbers look, nobody's gonna make an educated guess, right? Even selling the building, how much revenue does that building bring in if it's a commercial building at that point? How much tax revenue? How many, you know, if it is leased and it becomes apartments, what is the economic contributor to registrations, taxes, you know, local, you know, and all of those things. Those are the things that need to be brushed and taken care of so that everybody can make a balanced, understanding, vote.
Is there any grant money available to help with that thing?
So I've called Senator Collins' office about congressionally designated funds, and they're helping me with, no matter what avenue we go with, right? They'll help us with what way we gotta go. And they indicated that Senator Collins is very interested in Sangerville, Maine, and where it goes in the direction it heads.
So help as in whether to build new or fix old?
Either one. It's up to us to decide how we fix that. But we can't do that without the price tag.
Right. Some of the research that I did with regard to Susan Collins' office is that it's bifurcated. So there's money that is available for building new, a new fire station or a new town hall or whatever it may be. And that is a lot more money because that's through the Department of Agriculture, actually.
Yep.
The money with regard to a restoration of an old historic building is capped, and I almost think it's only $75,000.
It's not as much
It's,
as.
no, so, you know, as far as that type of grant, through those congressional
Yep.
avenues.
See no grants apply to either route we take.
Correct, that we could apply for both.
Right.
So anyway, I just wanted to, that's the research that I did as far as dollars and cents. And if we were to get the grant, for example, all of these neighboring towns that are getting these grants for new municipal buildings, Corinna and the fire department, those all, the town has to match. I think it's 15% of the total amount. So the town has to be committed to, if they grant us $1.1 million to build whatever it may be, the town's coming up with 15% of that. So, anyway.
So, yeah, like Jody said, the misconception of these grants are they're free. They're not.
Yeah.
Municipalities have to match at some level.
But that's this type of grant. There are other grants
Yep.
out there, like
Yep.
the Quimby Fund and all those that would they grant differently, so that's, we're talking one
Transportation.
specific type of grant.
Correct.
The
There
Department
are others.
Department of Transportation, there is historical designated, grants there. So there are others out there that the research needs to be done. Now, all of this needs to be submitted by March of '24 for 25 committed funds. So we have some time to develop the process and do a vote and then get the stuff in, but we don't have a huge window. You know, by January, the vote, in my eyes, should be already have done, so we can start putting pen to paper for the grants on what we need to write.
And either way, we'll be writing grants, whether we look at this building or look at a new building, or it's
Right.
gotta be looked at.
It was needed in writing grants, not just a simple application.
No,
You
you,
need the whole story.
right,
The
like,
whole story, you need letters of support. Susan Collins said that letters of support from the community are extremely important and of a wide variety, and there's no limit to the letters of support. So those all have to be in place, submitted with the grant. and concrete architectural plans and cost analysis.
And environmental impact
Yep,
studies
the
need to be
whole
done.
thing. So we have very little time, actually.
That's a long
Yeah,
time ago.
Especially with as far behind as everybody is
Yep.
in booking out.
Yep. So, anyway, yeah.
No, that's all stuff that needs to be brought to light and needs to be put on paper so everybody can make that decision sooner than later, you know?
So we need the what, where, how, and when.
Yeah, and then, you know, like commercial sales, it can go up for commercial sale at 200, you know, the number is 276,000 is the recommended, you know, sale
That's
price.
from comps, right?
But that's from a commercial real estate agent, comps. That's
Well, what's the
not,
likelihood anyone's gonna get financing for that if it needs so much work though?
right,
And it's not financeable if it's not insurable,
right.
like you said, so we gotta find out if it's insurable.
Insurable, and then, so then I've gone and discussed, how much it would cost to dig out around it, put, you know, crib up what is underneath there, take out the old foundation and do a monolithic pour. You know, we're still gonna need engineer drawings for that, and then an engineering study, but I did get, you know, some feedback on what it would take to do that.
And that's to take the cellar right completely out of it and put it on a cement slab?
No, put it on a wall, concrete.
What if it was just put on a cement slab?
We already have one down there. We
No, the
gonna,
whole thing, what if the cellar was completely filled in and we put the building,
and so that is a possibility, and I did talk to, Stephen Cole, even though he's retired, you know, I bounced some ideas off of him. You know, and there is ways that you could do that. You could fill the basement up with crushed stone, right? And you fill it up with crushed stone, it's geopacked, so it's vibrated all down. And then you take where the windows are, right? And if you take the windows out, the wooden plywood windows that are in there, if you take those out and you run monolithic beams across, and then you're catching everything, and then you could pour and put it on a slab.
but then you got the issue, it's a historical landmark, and can you do that to a historical landmark?
It'd probably be the same price to put a foundation as it would be to do a slab.
Yeah. By the time you fill that up with crushed stone, you're probably better off. I mean, it's what, $22, $23 a yard for crushed stone?
Or just gravel?
Yep.
Well, you
I
wouldn't,
think EAP.
you wouldn't want the gravel because I think your compressions, you would still get that if it got wet, where if you had crushed stone, it has that,
Kind of,
the strength, the tensile strength and the compression strength is better on
it can
crushed stone.
only settle at one point.
Yeah, it can't settle more. But I think you'd be further ahead if you just dug it out and put a monolithic walls around it.
How bad is the roof on it? Do we know?
So that I haven't gotten to, and that's one thing that I do need to get to. Now, we take volunteer time, right? The weight of the shingles that are stored up there, you know, those can be done. Some of the little things that need to be done, we could probably get volunteer to do, you know.
Give it away, get them to clean it up.
Paint, you know, fix some of the electrical, we must have electricians in town, I don't know, right? That's an option, and that needs to be put down, that we do all that stuff to get volunteers to help to reduce the cost. Do we take the slate right off the roof and put tin on? Because then it reduces the weight of
The building.
the building, and then it still gives it that ability for snow to slide off, and you don't have that dead weight on there all winter.
Now, here we got it as a historical landmark, so can we take the slate off the roof or something like that?
Right.
And could you sell the slate to help pay for the
I mean,
roof?
is the roof even leaking? We don't even know.
Right,
Yeah,
that's the question.
it might be something that was done years ago that,
I know
Said it
that,
was leaking around the chimney. didn't it?
yeah, I know that when we had the report from the and that's all, everyone can access that, and there's a
Yeah.
report in this, yeah. They flew a drone, the insurance company flew a drone up there around around the roof and, examined the roof, and they said there's a lot of broken slate tiles. Whether it's leaking, I don't know, that I don't know. Yeah. There may be, and that's in the, yeah, you had, in the library, you had water coming down the walls, yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, and the walls, correct?
Yeah.
Over the door jamb.
Yes.
That's from settling.
Yeah.
Right.
So at this point, we need to take all the options that lead us to solving, we need a town hall or a town office, right? And then we gotta get to the numbers of, we gotta start building these options out, and then we gotta piece it out so that we can get a good clear, it's gonna cost this mill rate, or it's gonna cost us to increase in taxes, or it's not gonna cost anything to increase in taxes. What is it gonna cost? How much is it gonna cost, you know? If an insurance company comes and says, hey, we'll insure you, right? What does that look like? You know, cause that's not a win. I mean, I'm just gonna be honest, that's not a win. Because we still gotta look at how much does it cost to heat the place. There's still structural issues that are gonna have to be addressed, and we would have to let everybody know that it's still gonna cost money to fix this over time. It's not gonna be something that can be done right away.
Right.
We had a gentleman from Dover, Chris Mass, came up and talked to the Historical Society, and we had him come with the selectmen, came to that meeting. And he was willing to write a grant for the elevator, which he said we certainly could get, so we could use the upstairs. He said he could write other grants, but the selectmen just, Mr. Neal, Mr. Watt he told us that even if we got a grant, he wasn't interested.
Well, that's the past, that's not solving the problem
I
statement
know,
we have right
but it
now.
just leaves an awful sour taste in it.
That's what
All-
we're all here now.
All I can do is solve the problem statement. And I can't solve it by myself, I gotta have everybody here to help solve the problem statement going
But what
forward.
I'm saying is out there.
Yes,
And the building's not getting any healthier sitting empty and unheated.
No, I agree with that.
Yeah, empty buildings don't do well.
No.
I just wonder how much of a problem it would be to, if we do go with the old building,
yeah,
if just to start, to try to get ourselves through, we get structurally done what we can do and be able to insulate that, so all we are heating and all we are doing is just that very bottom floor, that would cut back a lot of money.
Yeah.
If they got some, and there's a lot of money out there with the state for, for insulating and all that stuff, I just wonder, there's a lot of ideas that we could come up with.
Yeah.
And, that would just, you could envelope it, and it wouldn't cost much to keep it.
and that's one of the factors, if it does get insurance, we gotta think about reducing the cost to operate the building, cause you got a lot of space up above that,
Well, at least the space to offset the cost.
right? And then that's a whole nother option that we would have to go down and discuss. You gotta get it structurally sound so you can lease that out, so that you can have yoga night, or fitness night, or baked bean supper night, Do we even do that in Maine anymore?
Fireman's dances.
Some people love,
Right. Do we have Hunter's breakfast still?
But the upstairs could be something you could tackle later if you could figure out how to get through, getting the foundation done, getting
Yeah.
the roof fixed, getting it insulated so you could utilize the downstairs to make sure you could heat it and maintain it. You could
Yeah.
always do that later on and figure out
But,
what to do with it later on to make it an income. You don't have to decide that
But that foundation has been like that for how long?
Quite a few years.
forever.
A long
The
time.
problem is, there hasn't been anything budgeted for that town hall in the last 10 years. Every year, before that, we always put money aside
well,
to fix the.
I would go back to even further than 10 years, because I think things were budgeted, I just don't think action was taken.
Right.
In the
Right.
90s, it was a big push for it. We did a lot in the
We had
90s to the building.
We had a lot of road money budgeted over this past year, and we finally just started getting Flanders Hill done. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Well, Firth did a bunch of work, was it 13, 14, that time frame?
So they did do the pylons underneath in there. So
No, I
really,
meant exterior wise, painted the whole place.
Yeah, just put money into it.
So,
That was for the bicentennial.
yeah, so we're at the statement, and then we're at the intent and purpose of what we're here for, right? So now we gotta and then we have concepts, you know, like, I think I hit all the intent, you know, the options, keep it. You know, I did reach out to the University of Maine system and said, would you be interested in making this a satellite? And they didn't want it. But that doesn't mean if we don't keep it and we eventually go forward that we can't offer that space to lease for secondary education. Even if it is a community college or some sort. I mean, there's options, but what we gotta do is we gotta get to where we're making cut and dry and do the analytics and on the options and say, here's what this is gonna do to our taxes. This is what it's gonna do. This is, you know, is a new building the best bet, and this turns into a rec center, you know? There's those options that we need to all look at and what is best situated. And I get the monument that it is, I get everything behind it. Like I said, I have my beliefs and my personal take on it, but I get employed by everybody here to give them the facts.
And ultimately, it's the voters' decision.
It sure is. It is not mine. I just need to educate them.
I think that one of the things that everyone needs to decide is where the municipal government is going to operate.
Would you like a chair?
No, thank you. Thanks. There's plenty of chairs, Diane. I'm all set. So I think that's a primary question. And if everyone, you know, I mean, we could have a show of hands if you all think that municipal government should be taking place in the town hall. And I think that's where it gets confusing for us. I mean, as you can see, we're conducting our business, running the town in what, 1,100 square feet, not even.
I hide behind a curtain.
No, I understand. I understand that. But to keep, you know, to have a 4-story building, anyway, you know, I
Yes.
would imagine, I mean, we could take a, you know, vote of hands.
Yeah, economically, it's not feasible to have just a town office in that giant building.
No, and so, you know, some of the thought processes we have had, and that I'd like to share is, you know, we all remember Abby Fowler School. And I don't know actually factually how many years we own that when it was given to the town of Sangerville. Maybe you do, Diane, you know how many years the town of Sangerville ended up owning Abby Fowler prior to it being sold for $1 to Brian Howard?
Too many.
Yeah. And that was an experiment, right? There was a physical fitness center in there. I don't know what else was in there over all the years. But in the end, the town of Sangerville wasn't into being the, you know, landlords. And it was a failure as far as, and that's a 1-story building. That was a 1-story.
There were some asbestos problems. There were problems.
Okay, so there's, you know, remediation of.
PCBs as well.
Okay, so, but I just want to tell you some of the things that we thought, you know, that many people have said, oh, wouldn't it be nice to have that as rental space? Well, who's renting it? And those are all things I think we need to do a study. If in fact the municipal government isn't being conducted there, what is going to happen over there?
Just as an aside though, the original renovation of the town hall was an extreme success, and that shouldn't be ignored.
Mm-hmm.
It was a rat trap. It was rabbit warren of little tiny decrepit rooms. The bathroom for the town manager was no bigger than a closet. We had to crawl up some rickety stairs to get into the town office. It was an embarrassment. And that renovation, many years ago, was an extreme success. The foundation at the time was corrected, the town hall was insulated, new siding was put on, that rabbit warren was torn apart and reconfigured in a way that was usable space. The library was able to stay in there, a community room was put in, and the town office had a place that was extremely functional and warm and pleasant. And I don't think, and that was the power of the citizens group. It was something that was desired by the town, it was something that was driven by citizens, grants were found, plans were made, and it was a success. It wouldn't be standing if the citizens hadn't taken care of it the way they did. So, yes, Addie Fowler, it's kind of a sad thing, and it's still very sad. We sold it for $1 with the understanding that something productive was going to be done with it, and that hasn't happened. But there has been a success in this town based on citizen support and effort.
What year was that?
92, I think.
92.
91 or 92.
Yeah, it was in the 90s,
Yeah.
and it was a long-range program, and it was well-planned. And because it was well-planned, with a timeline of how things were going to progress, we were able to get town support at the meeting. And that was not something to be overlooked, because they promised a lot of good funding in order to get that town in shape, along with some grants that we had. And, it's just a matter of, I think the last time that I'm not sure, Jerry's not here.
Jerry's in the
Dad is
hospital.
actually in the hospital, he does want to participate. He ain't gonna be home for another couple of days, unfortunately.
Okay, but when he was on the last renovation committee, they had asked for a significant chunk of money from the town, and then said that the renovation committee should take a moratorium about asking the town for money for a while, so that the money that had been borrowed could be paid off before more plans continued. And that's why renovations were suspended. But it was a success.
Yeah, and just one thing, just to clarify with regard to that, is that the engineering report at the time had plans for the foundation, which were never implemented.
Oh, no, we had a lot of things implemented in the foundation.
No, I understand that, I know that, but as far as with regard to the engineering that they were requiring, that was not followed through. What the engineers said needed to be done, yes, I know the foundation was worked on, but what the engineers said needed to be done was not done.
But what I'm saying is, the town hall renovation was citizen-driven, town-backed, and an extreme success. We just never got to the second stage of it, which was the second floor.
But the major thing is the foundation.
Now,
So
Right.
that wasn't programmed in 92 to be
You
fixed.
didn't tell him what you did, it was supposed to be.
it was supposed to be, yes, but
So it wasn't programmed. Right? That's what I'm saying is, it was supposed to be, but it wasn't programmed because we're here today.
no, there was, as Jody said, there was significant work done on it. And I wish Jerry was here because he could speak very clearly to that.
Him and I talked about that last night.
Yeah, they were on the phone.
One of the things he said was, back then, there wasn't as much of an issue with the foundation. And there was a discussion on how to insulate the bulkhead on that side of it. And my father's got a lot of experience with foundation, and he advocated to insulate the bottom of the bulkhead and heat the bulkhead area. And he was overruled, and they insulated the wall, which allowed the bulkhead to push the wall in.
Yeah,
Was
that
done.
bulkhead froze and it pushed the wall in
yeah.
because the way they insulated it was not the proper way.
Right, exactly.
And it was a conversation my father was pretty passionate about, and he lost the argument and was proven right in the end. And that's what's going on with the foundation here, as I can see.
Drainage is not very good. It needs to be
That's why. it
grubbed
froze.
out,
Is why I pushed it.
and it needs to have crushed stone put back in with the right with the outright plumb, pipe and outlet. And then it needs a monolithic pour done, and then it needs to be capped at that point. And then, and it needs to be insulated on the outside as well as with the water barrier, so that, cause the water pressure from the parking lot is coming right into this side. And I would almost better guess that it's still traveling to the other side at some point and pushing up against the bulkhead itself still. So, like I said, I did make one phone call and I did get some feedback on what it would take. But this is all part of the problem statement, and the reason is we have people in town that want to keep it. We have people in town that don't want their taxes to go up if it causes renovation. We have people in town that think that a new one would be better. So there's different things that I need and that I owe, because that's who pays my bills and puts, I haven't missed many meals, so I like to eat. But that's what I owe, right? I can't focus on one thing. I gotta focus on everything, and all the ping pong balls coming at me. And that's why we're here, is to help with that, right? That's knowledge that we need. Like, you and I are probably on the same boat with I could have an excavator in here tomorrow, and I could have, the contract ready to go, and we could have a new wall in by next week.
Then you gotta pay.
But then you gotta pay for it, and who wants to pay for it, and who wants the bill, and.
Either way, there's gonna be an expense, whether it's the old
There
or the
is.
new, there's gonna be an expense. And
Yep.
ideally, I think I agree with you with what you're saying, and what I really like is that it is the people of the town that need to make that choice.
Yeah.
But we need to collect the information to educate them on what that choice is gonna cost, no matter what it is. And once we educate them on the cost, we, the people, are the ones that decide, not the boards, or the people that are hired by us.
Yep.
They are initially the ones that collect and do the job of running the town and trying to do what they should do for us, but ideally, we are the people and we should decide.
Absolutely, and that's the way it's always been.
That's the way it needs to
I
be.
don't think
It's the way it needs to be.
any of these decisions, the reason why these things are in there is to inform the public, and if there is a vote that comes up, that the public knows what's going on. But we can't make any decisions without the legislative bodies, everyone here voting and telling us, in the end, it's our responsibility to put it in front of you and saying, this is what we think we should go, but it's up to all of you. And that's the way it works.
She doesn't look like she believes you.
Well, it's
I'm not
true.
gonna start an argument, because that's not what we're here for.
Well, it isn't really.
No, there's no right, it's the truth.
Because
It's-
there's
So
only one way
it
to
is
do
a truth, and there is only one way, but we also know that there was, so this didn't happen before because of
So-
different scenarios.
Right, but so I'm gonna interject in that, right?
That's the past.
That's right.
It is the past, but
It is the past.
I will shock you that those three did come to me and asked me to start looking. When I got hired, that was one of the first things they did, was, hey, we gotta do something with this and we need options. So I will say that they did, right? Now we're here at this point, I've been at the helm for a month,
Yeah, right.
right? And I'm gonna tell you, it's very difficult for me, coming out of 17 years of army, and trying to adjust with, but they did. That, I will stand up and say, they did ask me, hey, Patrick, we need options. Whatever options you come up with, think tank it, but now we have a full tank.
Well, we've kind of talked about the town hall, and it's gonna take a lot of work to get us to that point. Now, to get to the town office that we're also supposed to be discussing.
Right, that's the main objective.
At this point, where we are, we're okay until the contract comes up, we're okay there. Now, at the meeting, they said, oh geez, we don't have the room, we need more room, but we can get by where we are right now, correct?
Well, we've been doing it.
I mean, yeah, we have very good kumbaya moments.
And, well, you're-
I will say that the work environment in there is nice, I mean, it's, you know, I haven't had any issues in, you know, well, if I don't have an issue with where I'm working right now, I don't think anybody should.
and
And I'm doing just fine, I
They
think.
can get by.
I mean, I do have to go to my truck for a personal phone call.
There isn't gonna be any state agent to come in and tell you guys you can't work out of there anymore, cause it doesn't meet this, they can get by till that time.
I haven't seen that yet. Could that come? It's,
Maybe.
yeah, maybe.
Okay.
You know, so,
Did that
so
answer what you were getting at? Yeah.
is the solution, you know, looking for another temporary home, you know?
I don't think we need to feel we have to.
Right,
I-
it could chop up.
Yeah,
Chad Burgess, he used to be the captain of the fire department, and he brought up at the selectmen's meeting, if you're going after funding for a town office, why don't you combine the fire department and the town office and go through FEMA? Because you'd have more money.
right.
And that was shot down, it wasn't even an option for the people to say, this sounds good. This fire department needs a whole lot of work too. And we have actually a really good fire department with a lot of men and women that wanna be on the fire department and do the training and stuff.
Mhm.
So if you're gonna choose the option of the town office, why not do what Chad suggested?
With that, so now I'm gonna have to go look at those into the rabbit hole, right? Cause there might be something at the end of that rabbit hole that just says, it's not gonna work. You can get FEMA money for this part of the building, but you're not gonna get it for the administrative part.
According to him, that's what Greenville and a lot of them did, is they combined the town office.
Like a hybrid.
Yeah, but I think Greenville got caught up in it costing them a few million more than it actually was supposed to, right?
Yeah, and we don't wanna spend a few more.
So we got what, we got a town meeting coming up
I think
next
we
spring,
all
we
agree
need
don't
all
wanna
this
spend a few
informed
more
decisions,
million.
choices with information behind them by then.
Well, I think we,
don't wanna
It'd have to
spend
be
a
done
few more
before the
million.
annual
Yeah,
town.
that's,
It's-
yeah,
it's gotta be done before the annual town meeting.
that's it. And
or
I
it could
mean,
be used for next year, or the year after that, I mean, it's.
it's been as long as I.
Right, doesn't have to be immediate, you know, we're sitting here saying, oh my God, we gotta get all this stuff done this fast for 2,000 whatever money. Well, will the building stand another 5 years if we don't get everything done? I mean, we don't
Right.
wanna go into this quick and unrash, I mean, we need to take the time and make a good decision
Yeah.
and get the information that we need without going to get one contractor. We need to go get 3 or 4 contractors to look and say,
That's right.
this is what it's gonna cost. So
Yeah.
we
But
we
as
don't
long
need,
as you
we
leave
don't,
that building unhit and it's not gonna stay.
right, but we don't need, well, that, but for 5 years, I mean,
It probably will, yeah.
It probably
Yeah.
would.
you know what I mean, is, because we're sitting here like, starting to talk, it's like, oh my God, we gotta get this done by this time.
Right.
Well, the only thing that's important at this point, well, the town hall is very important,
Right,
but
town
the
offices,
town offices, but where you people meet
yeah,
is what would be, I mean, if they sold that building, we've got the end of the contract and then we're out, then you would have to decide where
sure.
we were going. And, you know, if worst comes to worst, you could always get a trailer and park a trailer and use a trailer if you have to.
Well, I'll go down that rabbit hole in a second.
Yeah, I just had a question, and kind of looking at the bigger picture, the question in front of us is what are we gonna do with town offices? No matter what we do, we're stuck where we are for a certain period of time.
Correct.
Even if the money ferry came over and dropped a ton of money on it, it's gonna take some time to physically do repairs. If we build a new place, it's gonna take time to build a new place.
So I asked the question to myself, maybe I did voice it out loud, I can't remember. Depends on if I took my meds. Why can't we operate out of the Public Works building? The town clerk area is where the administrative area is for now, right? We get some volunteers, get some elbow grease, clean it all up, you know, paint it all up, get it so Sam and whoever the new clerk is gonna be, it's comfortable in there. Go into the other bay where the door is and it's all insulated, right? It's got heat, it's got bathroom, we volunteer, or voluntold, thank you, I appreciate you showing up tonight. And we get that ready, right, and so we can work out of there. If the space is big enough to have, you know, these meetings, the town selectmen meetings we have, it's big enough to have work out of. And it would fit the bill, plus we wouldn't be paying rent for a building down here. But then what happens if we do decide we're gonna build new, and then all of a sudden, where do we go because we're demoing that part of the building, right? I mean, I guess that's a decision at the time that we come up with, at the time of, you know, initiation. We're gonna implement building a new building, right? Well, town office, I'm sorry to tell you, we're gonna have to relocate until the building's built, or put a trailer out there, work out the trailer, and then the new one's built. And then go through the options for vote and get the decisions made on what happens to that.
And where does that go with insurance, putting insurance on that building?
So it already has insurance on it. I mean, it already has the policy. That wasn't any of the issue. I think work environment and I mean, that's something that I'm gonna probably bounce off of you is, you know, going in there and working out of there is an administrative area. It already has one, but we just gotta make sure that, you know, the air quality and all of that stuff is meeting what we need.
One of the issues you're gonna run into, you talk about the town garage, is you cannot have vehicles with gasoline parked in those buildings. You will not get insurance.
Right.
Right.
So if you're talking about using a dual purpose up there for something, you're not gonna be able to. It's gonna have to be all town office. You won't be able to have vehicles in there, store vehicles in there. You could bring them in there possibly and work on them, but you will insure them, they're not insured.
Right.
Insurance isn't gonna insure it both ways.
No.
So there's the rabbit hole that I just got to the bottom of that answers, why don't we work out of there? Right?
So what's the monthly lease where we're at currently?
Is it 1,300? That's with heat and utilities and everything in it?
So parking a trailer up at the town office would be cost effective versus even 2 or 3 years at least. While we work on a new building would make more sense than moving the town office up there. I'm not trying to
No.
squash anybody's idea.
Right, no,
I'm trying to
it's-
point out some economic fact here.
I don't think Chris is squashing anybody's ideas. Those are the things that, like Mike talked about, right? And we just walked through the whole process and got to the, we're not gonna be able to be insured because you can't keep a gas vehicle in the same place you got an administrative
Oh,
building.
you're talking about combining fire department and town office down there, is that what
No,
you're?
no, just having the town office in there, but there's already vehicles stored in there.
The new buildings
Take 'em
that they
out.
built does have town office and the fire departments in them, like over in Howland.
Right.
But there is a major,
Firewall.
yeah,
Right.
it's actually 2 separate buildings.
So what does it take to put that wall in and
Right.
spray the fire foam in between and?
By that time, they're better off just to build a new building.
What's in the building for
Stay
vehicles?
where you are.
The old fire truck.
Two options.
And then the
Most of
old,
the building's gone, isn't it? The doors and the bucket loader.
Doors and bucket loader,
They're all gone.
and then the old forestry trucks in there,
Yeah, we're not getting that out.
out.
That property up there was just wetlands for years, and they built on, the Heron Brothers built it up to, and it's contaminated with salt, it's contaminated with oil. I don't see how that would be a feasible place.
To work out of?
So, yeah,
To
the
drive
town
on.
office.
Yeah, it wouldn't be an issue until you tried to sell it.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
build it.
Yeah.
Sell it or develop it even.
I mean, there's other properties around.
Well, so, hey,
around
that's a
that. There's other properties in town.
There's a great point, right there. If we do the environmental impact study to build a new building up there, and then all of a sudden, lo and behold, that's all contaminated ground, you're not gonna break ground.
They're not gonna
You're
go.
not gonna break ground, somebody's gonna clean it up.
And then it's gonna cost you even more, right?
So,
That's
so,
right.
Hector, and I don't feel like, I don't wanna continue to interject, but, these are things that's a bullet point, so let's do that. Right, I mean,
Yeah.
inform that decision right away.
Right.
Because as far as our select board, that's where we're thinking about a new town office. And so let's do that environmental impact, whatever that takes to inform that decision and put it to bed. Can
Yeah.
we build there? So that may not even be
It might not
an
even
option.
be, it might be at the ball field if we do a new one,
It might be well money spent.
Right, so I mean, I would say that's,
Those are all the valid points that I need to be able to put
Right.
on the little educating thing,
Wouldn't the ball field be considered a flood zone though?
I don't think it's in the flood
I think
area.
it's in the flood zone.
But where the old Starboard building is, instead of coming into town and seeing vacant lots,
Yeah,
I mean,
which one is that now? Where is it?
it was right here by the bridge.
That's Chris's
Well,
property.
no, there's a blank lot.
Yeah, but that doesn't do that.
How-
Nobody seems to know who it really owns. I've been down that road a couple times.
the piece that the town owns to put a building on, probably about the size of this table.
Fourth story.
But what I'm saying is, there's other places
Right,
that where you
Absolutely.
could look at it versus up there, because my understanding is the backside of that's a wetland, is it not? I mean,
Yeah.
how much area are they planning to put in there? You mean,
Or is
it's
it-
also a designated deer yard, I mean, how
Yeah, I
much
was
are you
gonna
gonna
say,
be able
didn't
to
somebody
do?
say it was game preserve or
It's a
something
deer
back
yard,
there?
it's a
Yeah,
designated deer yard.
so they're not gonna.
know where I'm
go
going for
there.
lunch break on Saturday.
Bring the 30 outside.
Right,
Put a blind on the roof.
won't take me long. But, so, I don't want anybody to feel like, well, what am I even doing here and why am I doing this? Because all of these points are valid points, right? Cause we just put the rest, like, 2 things up here, well, one and a half, the other one,
We
the other
think we
one,
have, we don't know 100%. I mean,
No.
that's-
but I gotta do the analysis on it.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, are we gonna shoot ourselves in the foot if we do an environmental impact study, find contaminated soil and be responsible for the cleanup?
For cleaning.
Right, that's where I was going.
I mean,
Crystal.
We know it's gonna be
It's a
there.
possibility.
You know.
No, it is, I mean,
What
And
is
everybody-
it?
is that
So
even a
we're-
bridge we wanna cross?
And everybody calls it a wetland, if it's not over 2 acres, it doesn't have zoning anyway.
It serves
It
its
is-
purpose
it
for
is
its
one of
town
those
garage. I mean, it can always be the town garage.
And we may not have contaminated it, I mean, there was oil tanks there for many, many years, next door.
Yeah.
That's right.
So it may not be us, but there was oil
Unless
tanks
it
there.
turns up salt water.
Yeah.
But, you know,
But if we find it.
That's what I gotta, I mean,
Yeah, you
those
gotta-
are all the things that I need to go through, and this is why this is a think tank, more of than a committee. It's gotta be,
Take a list of 1,000 items and bring it down to.
I mean, I gotta whittle everything down.
Can anyone?
Well, look at it either way.
What the plan is for the Abbey Fowler site, because it's been not
So-
doing anything for a long time, and it's connected to town water,
Yep.
town sewer.
And it's got a
Centrally
foundation.
located.
It's a great
It's already
spot.
been slab.
So
You
I,
didn't
that's
know
one
what
of,
you're supposed to
so-
do with it?
so I have gone
Have
up
you
there,
done
I have
nothing?
looked at it, and that is one of my
Give him
thoughts
Give
concept.
him $2 and he can double his money.
Yeah,
you even have the cement slab to put it on.
Well,
Yeah.
because I thought we sold it for $1, with the understanding that something positive and productive was gonna
so
happen.
within 3 years, it had to have been renovation started.
Was
And
it,
it
was
wasn't.
it 3? I thought- So it's been, what, 2?
It's been
We
more than
might have
that.
to reimburse him for the
Yeah, it's
expenses
been
of tearing it
This
down,
time,
but that
2020.
would be, I would think.
I just remember watching it.
Do you remember what year
Didn't
that
seem like
was?
it
I have the contract,
It's
I
been at
already,
least 3 years.
Oh,
Say-
yeah,
It was
Yeah,
only
it's over
21.
3
yeah,
years.
yeah.
Sam pulled up the sales contract agreement for me, and I think by year 8, which is 2026, it had to have been fully renovated and implemented,
Or what?
or it reverts
Did it
back.
Does it say it reverts back?
By 26, that's what we thought.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
Still is.
But
That
If
opens
you
up
go
a
up-
whole new place.
Yeah.
you go up there and pour a new slab on top of it and drill and pin what's there, and then put a metal building on it, you know,
Spray foam main.
where are we at there? I mean,
Big parking lot. There's-
so that has been one of my
In a nice park.
thoughts. Now that we've brought it up in the think tank and I'm on record, then I'm gonna have to go and do my work on it.
You won't.
No, I had, Matt, Fire Chief and I went up and walking around it and looking at it and we're like, this is actually a really good spot for it. And then that would give a, but,
And the cleanup there was all done, the asbestos, they hauled all.
yeah,
that.
it's all taken care of, yeah, because they took the asbestos tiles off.
The soil is,
Yeah,
that's a better option in town, garage.
It is.
I mean, it is,
I think it is.
We don't
Back
own
on the table.
then if we, you know,
You know, I mean, the town garage thing, everybody's like, oh, we already own it, you know.
We also
Or even
at some
put
point
modules
bring
up on
back
it. In 2026
we
we'll
need
own
to-
that one.
We need something,
We
yeah.
need, that's another bridge to cross at another
Yeah.
time, but that needs to be done too at some point.
There's not one person in this room that has the answer.
no.
It's gonna be combination.
Yeah.
Combination.
That's right.
I go by the adage, if I'm the smartest man in the room, I'm surrounded by idiots, and I am far from the smartest man in this room.
Is there anything that any of us can do to help you?
All the ideas. You just have to give me those ideas, the history, the thoughts, the concepts, all of this
I
stuff.
think she's asking, do you wanna assign certain people to, you do this, you do
Like
this, you do
tasks,
this,
I mean,
to accommodate it
How
quicker?
many meetings do we have before we've got a clear path that, here, we
Yeah,
got
well, that's
these
what's
five
established
things.
that. What's the battle rhythm for, how many of these we're gonna have to get
And
to.
please have them after 5 o'clock, cause I'm self-employed,
I'll
trying to
feed you
get
if we
here when I
have to.
close at 5.
Like 5:30.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're doing beans supper, and have
Summer
beans
meetings.
and supper, there you
I'm all
go.
for it.
Who's making the beans?
Another question, what about community outreach? I mean, how, we need to let people know what's going on.
Or to build
Wait
online,
until we
right?
have some answers.
Yeah,
I have a big mouth, I can help you with that.
So it's gonna. So Sam is, now she's had to go back and just take care of the big alligators in the office, right? But she had been getting involved in trying to communicate with everybody and, getting the word out and using social media. She honestly wants to see if we can buy, and she went to the research, an event board so that we can put the dates and times on the events, that things are happening up there, right? That's become, her, I don't wanna say pet project, because she's got great ideas and, she keeps coming to me with, can we do this? Will you talk to them about us doing this? And so she has awesome intent, so I'm letting her run with the communication part of things. But she's just,
That's good, that's
Word of
gonna be
mouth.
a good reminder,
yeah.
as people are going through town, meeting, I wanna
Yeah.
be there.
Well, even an event, if you sign on the Dover page or something, or we have a Sangerville page, it'd be so helpful
Yeah.
to know what's going on.
Yeah,
in
once we-
town.
There is a website for
I
town.
don't-
Yeah.
I couldn't find anything on that.
Once we-
I tried to
once
find
we-
the agenda.
I've never been able to find
It
anything.
is hard,
It's
it
all
is
right.
hard for people that aren't an educated idiot to understand, it is difficult.
So,
The website, if you're not an educated idiot, it is very, and excuse me, I'm not insulting anybody directly, none of us are educated
I know,
idiots, by the way.
As a good developer.
It's a quicker speech.
I got a big mouth idiot, but I
Yeah,
am.
I go out there and I've had a hard time finding the reports and I'm not stupid. I mean, I really had a hard time navigating and trying to find stuff and.
yeah.
Well, maybe it's just not intuitively built, and therefore, that's a whole nother group of people that can make it perhaps more intuitive as far as finding things.
But you gotta think about some
I
of the
think
people,
when we land a
some of the
permanent
people,
home,
I know, some
a
people
digital
still
sign
have flip
will be
cards.
Yeah.
They don't even have a computer, and I mean, those people, evolution of technology has gone from here to here.
So we wanna assign tasks in purpose
I
to.
had one other question before we go there. We talked about putting in effort, individuals. How does that fit in with the insurance that the town has? Example, if we wanted estimates on that, or if we wanted estimates on what it would cost to do here, how does that work with the town insurance? Like currently, nobody can go in that building because of the insurance.
Right.
That's not what.
Well,
came out
no,
of
no, no,
last
no, you
meeting.
can if you sign a liability waiver.
And before that, that weren't the case.
You know, going forward, I understand if we sign a liability waiver,
They can go in.
they can go in.
But any one of the options that we're looking at up there, over here.
Yeah, I
So
would,
that's something.
but we have to, I mean, we gotta get to that, you know, hey, sign here, you can go in and look at it, it's your own risk, and thanks for your estimate.
Yeah.
We gotta do that because we have to give.
Is there a number of
clear-
people, is there a ceiling, you know, groups of how many, or? I mean, could you take a group of 20 people in there, does that still fly under the radar?
Yeah, that's one of the things that's gotta be
Figured out.
figured out.
I think it'd be nice for us to be able to go in
What?
and look through it. I mean, I think it'd be nice to
No,
set,
when you show me that.
to set a time and so we know what we're talking about. I mean, maybe we'll walk in there and say, oh my God, let's get rid of this place, this is a dump. And maybe we wanna go in there and say, geez, this is, you mean, we wanna save it, you know what I mean? I think it'd be nice for us to be able to go in, if we signed a waiver to go in and look it through.
Sure.
But we also
I think it's
remember,
gonna depend on the insurer, as for terms and
Yeah.
how they're gonna let through. I was involved in renovating a theater in California, and we faced the same kind of problems of getting people in there to take a look at it and understand what was going on. So we were continually going back and forth with the insurer to get a special waiver this date, this many people, but they have to be accompanied by
Yeah.
X
Yeah.
different conditions, so
So you
it
need
can
to
be
find
worked
that
out
out.
with them.
Yeah, so those are things that, well, we're gonna have to get the legal form to sign to say, I give up my life.
That's right.
That's why I was asking you, we were talking about the roof and stuff like that, I mean, myself, I mean, I own a bucket truck. I can fly up and look at it, but I
Right.
can't because of the liability.
Right.
Put real eyes on it and see it.
Or somebody's gotta, somebody's
You might be
gotta,
able to, cause you're outside of the building there.
well, so one thing is gonna have to
Parking lot
be
liability, I'm sure.
is digging into, you
Oh,
know,
show up and he'll get in trouble.
it being a historical building, can we still take the slate off and put tin on, you know? Those are the rabbit holes that we need to go down,
Right.
and if, we gotta assign that, like, that does,
Even if we put the town office back in there or not, if we keep ownership of that building, we gotta put
Still
money
gonna
in it.
address it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when it comes to like National Register designation, really what that does is prevent alterations or being torn down with federal funds.
right,
So that's not necessarily a limitation on materials, finishes, and so forth.
sure.
A lot of those things come out of local or state restrictions. So there's nothing from it being a National Register.
Yeah.
And you don't need an elevator in it if it's registered, right?
You don't need
Right,
ADA.
if it will destroy any historical characteristics of the building, it's not always required.
We don't want to destroy. they can-
You know, it would have to be a occupancy rating of, you know, if you wanted to use the second floor,
But they
whatever the
could put one of
insurance.
those chairs that go up the
Right.
stairs too, you wouldn't have to
Yeah.
have an elevator.
Yeah,
Single
stair
person,
lift.
Yeah,
sliding
continue.
stair
We've
lift.
interrupted you now.
that's okay.
So we'd need a number on that lot from the current entity that owns it,
Yeah.
if that was to even be considered.
Yeah.
You know, what would it cost the town to reacquire
You should
that?
just give it back.
So for now,
Yeah, we
right?
know what you got in it.
So for now, the fix for the town office is status quo.
Stay where it is.
Unless an insurance number comes back and says we can move in there, right? I mean, those are the things that we gotta look at. Whatever we do with that and the new build, that's separate from going forward with where we're at. So status quo, where we're at, right?
Has to be.
And now that that's the case, we need to start researching the new build, no matter where, right? Then we gotta break it down on the where. Environmental impacts, if it's at the park, flood zone, right? Oh, you also need septic system put in, you need water put in, you need the electrical dug in
Unless
there.
it's
I
already
think
in
there
town.
is, wasn't there a residence there?
there was a residence on the road that we burned down years ago.
Right,
So
so there would be water and.
Yeah, I'm not sure how far the town water goes, 'cause-
Oh, I don't know.
It stops before
But this
that.
lot already has
Stops.
town water.
Right, this one, so then there's that other thing, well, we got Public Works, right? So then we gotta tackle the environmental piece. Or, hey,
do we not?
is this really, yeah, right, or do we not even go down that road?
Yeah.
And then there's this option, which is already here, right? Then we also gotta do, somebody's gonna have to dive into that building, you know? If the insurance is there or not there, still something needs to be done with it, and what is done with it? Well, then there's commercial sale, there's donation, or we renovate it. And if we renovate it, you know, we gotta put a new foundation under it, then we gotta go forth with that. And then we need voluntold to clean up what we can clean up and take care of what we can clean up for free labor.
The thing that gets me about, I mean, I'd be hooting and hollering about this town office, say the town, the building, but what do we get in there? How do we get somebody to go in there? How do we fill it? Do we not even worry about filling it? Is it a possibility just to use the bottom floor and just seal her over until something comes up? They may wanna do something, seal the first floor and not worry about the top of the, I mean, you got the roof, you got the foundation, you got the
But you're gonna have to
sides.
let somebody, you're gonna have to let engineers in there to do an engineer report. Now, we've already had engineer reports done from
So
2015.
where do we come up
2000
with the money for that? Sorry, I'm over talking,
That's all right.
if I don't say it, I'll forget it.
Yep.
That's my brain.
Where does the money come? We're gonna have to ask for it and reallocate it.
Yeah.
If we have a special town meeting this summer, we can ask for it then, as long as
It's gonna have
it
to
has to be a warrant that's on the.
Do you know how much has been spent to date?
I don't, I don't have that number. But I will say that, on June 1st of this year, Plymouth Engineering did a preliminary, cost analysis of what it would cost with regard to an engineering report. And I would urge, if everyone is going in that direction, to not say, well, local contractors can come in and fix it up. I mean, I think it has to be done, you have to have an engineering report and you have to follow what the engineering report says as far as restoration of the building structurally. That's what.
Did that happen the last time the foundation was fixed?
No,
So how'd they get away with it then and they can't get away with it again?
you don't,
because it didn't happen?
nobody needs to listen to, I mean, you can do whatever you want, but if you want to honestly restore that building, I would say, my input would be, either you're going to do it right,
Correct.
or not at all.
Well, so what, going with an engineer report, what it's gonna do is a couple things, right? It's gonna cause whoever the contractor is to be bonded. So what the bond's gonna do is retain that amount of money, a percentage of whatever they're paid for a certain amount of time, so that if something faults on that structure, the town keeps that money. If you go with, you know, Papa Smurf building your basement,
Well, you don't wanna do that again. You
Right.
see what
it's
that-
gonna,
Right.
it's
That's
gonna.
why I asked the
yeah.
question.
Right.
You know, so, and then also engineers, when they do the report and the study, and they're also putting their licensure on the line so that they can be sued for fault too.
That's
Right.
So
exactly
there's
right.
3-4 layers of protection for the town by spending, you know, what, $300-400 an hour, it's like $30,000 for an engineer
Oh, yeah,
report or
it's
some
expensive.
crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's also what someone said at the town meeting, and no, it was Mike's mother.
This is
You know,
like-
what you said at the town meeting was great, and it made me think, if, you know, you snapped your fingers and tomorrow that thing was 100% perfect condition, would you use it?
That's my point, and I love the town hall. I know you all think that I want it down.
No, we know you love it.
I did, and I do. And I hope that as a group, that you can convince a lot of other people to help, do whatever. I mean, we certainly have, I just met him tonight, but it looks like he knows what he's talking about. And she doesn't really know.
Looks like he wants to do things right.
Military intelligence is an oxymoron.
No, it would be wonderful if we could find a way to, and it can't be done overnight, we know that.
Right.
It will probably be long after I'm gone.
Oh, let's hope not.
I'm getting old, but I would love to see that, even if it was just a historical building that eventually, whatever comes into town at some point. Because for the last, I was involved for over 20 years. And in those 20 years, the only thing was the library and the town office and our community room. And the community room actually was in use for all of the meetings that we had. I mean,
Years ago,
and we rented it out
upstairs.
to, the town rented it out to someone if they were having a party or,
Correct.
you know, I think a baby shower was held there. But it was not utilized.
Utilized.
And
it
it
weren't-
weren't profitable.
I think the key to
No.
utilizing that building would be getting the second floor
Yeah.
stage area. If you had that thing up to par and turned that over to the arts.
So another,
connected it with-
well, so another option,
Well,
so when,
here.
when I was a kid, I grew up in Southwest Harbor, right, which is on the better side of Mount Desert Island, because I don't like Bar Harbor. When I was a kid, they took the old elementary school, which actually was the high school at one time, and they turned it into a nonprofit recreational center, and it's called Harbor House, right? So Harbor House, every kid in Southwest grew up in Harbor House, and it started out, we had pool tables in the basement was no different than this, you know, it was, but over time and over years, it's become a focal point, and it's the oldest building in town, right? Because, I mean, it was the high school and the school and stuff, but it became, and is now, they got a fitness center in there, it's part of the arts culture, so they run all of the recreation in town. It's not the town runs the recreational department, it's Harbor House runs the recreational department, right? So we have Summer Festival of Arts, we have all of these things that go on, and it's been a great thing. So one thing that I would recommend, if we're looking at not keeping that in that capacity, is establish a 501c3 that is nonprofit, that becomes a community center. It's driven for, they got full-time employees, but it becomes a recreational and an outreach center, right? Mindful living, healthy mind, you know. It's a safe house, you know, that's where I grew up. I mean, not that I was in trouble, but could have been a troublemaker, but that was our outlet as kids, and it was a great opportunity. But then they also had adult programs, they had, you know, all of this stuff, but well, my point is, the town didn't do it, but they took the building over from the town. And they created a recreational facility, an outreach facility. And it's honestly identical to this building.
Yeah. It needs flow.
And then, if we establish that, then it would free up the ability, it would get after a couple of things, right? It would get after the people that have that building near and dear in their hearts, right?
Yeah, because we all have memories.
Right.
You know, the young kids don't.
I mean, I do, and I was only here half the time in a year of my life, right?
Well, and it wouldn't waste the money that the town has put into that building years and years.
So
and
like,
years.
so tomorrow I have a meeting with the director of outdoor recreation and tourism at 3 o'clock tomorrow, right? She's gonna come up because she wants to see what we have in the area. I'm gonna take her to the Veterans Park, we're gonna walk around, and one thing is recreation, right? Because what draws people is, you know, things in town to do. So I'll talk to her about my thoughts and concepts of that becoming a community center. Who owns it? I don't know. So I'm gonna tip my hand and tell you how I feel.
Yeah.
That becomes the focal point of town. It always has been. At what context is that, and who's paying for it, and how do we get it so that we are I don't want to say appeasing, but as a community, we're not fractured over something.
We're all in the same.
That's the
This
problem.
need-
We're all fractured and all knee-jerk reaction, and we all wanna point the finger, and we all wanna yell at each other, and we all wanna do these things.
Not really.
When when there's, I think there is an option for a fix, right?
Mhm.
And that fix be, that is a community center and it's a focal point. How we get it to the next thing, right? A 401c, a 501c3, maybe. Maybe the town does own it, I don't know.
Can we do that and have the town office here too? In the side of it? I mean, they would need it all. Yeah, because the town office even rent from them. but-
So technically, yes, because both are nonprofit entities, I would have to find out what the lease agreements are for nonprofits leasing to other entities, and I think nonprofits can lease to nonprofits, nonprofits can't lease to profits. So yes, that is, and if that's the case, and the nonprofit got the insurance to have the town office in there for the meantime until the decision on a new building. But what I'm getting at is, I think there's alternative ways to get to what is best for everybody here and not fracture the core, which is the community.
If we do go that route, and there could be something in the agreement given over that the town would be able to use for a 100-year lease of a certain part of it in order to give them the building, and the town would take responsibility for the town, the selectman's office or whatever you wanted to have. I mean, you could probably do a win-win with that, and then everybody would be happy.
I think we would have to do the analytics and do the analysis on contractual agreements and with the left and right limits of being able to do that. But I don't,
Possibility.
it is or community center in a new town office.
That brings us to one thing we.
Hold on, Hugh.
I was just gonna say, I don't like to admit it, but I am an attorney. I'm not a Maine attorney. I like to think of myself as a recovering attorney. But I'm not admitting here. But I can tell you, when it comes to issues like that, there's a million ways to skin the cat. There's a million ways to structure it. So it's more a question of figure out what we want to do, and then we figure out how to do it. Because essentially the issue there when it comes to a nonprofit renting out is what's called private inurement. Okay, it's a essentially, are you making money, or the individual directors of the nonprofit making money by doing this rental, so that you can do it even if you're renting to for-profit agencies. It's more protecting the nonprofit and the administrators of the nonprofit from the private inurement issue. Long way of saying, but just, let's not get tangled up in the weeds on that, so we can figure out ways.
Well, there's a lot of way.
Ownership and so forth. The issue is, as I used to tell my clients, figure out the deal you want to do, and then we paper it. We'll figure out how to put it down on paper and make it work. So I don't want anybody to get too hung up on what we can or can't do. Let's figure out what we want to do, and then we make it work.
So then we're back to, we gotta give the voter an option of build, fix.
Several.
Well, the thing that we haven't talked about yet, which is selling it for apartment buildings, which I'm not for, personally.
I'm not. for
Well,
that.
so that's an option that I've had to put down, right, because it has been an option.
It's been proposed.
No,
Yeah, we're not for the apartment.
So-
building.
but-
So that may be an option, but the bigger option there is putting it up for bid,
Right.
liquidating the asset.
Liquidated.
That would be the goal. Do we liquidate the asset, or do we repair the asset?
Right.
But
Which
isn't
is
that-
all encompassed in commercial sales.
Right.
And I think my reaction to the idea of having it as an apartment is it wasn't built to be an apartment building. It's not structured for it. I've never been anywhere other than the town clerk's office. And I can tell you that it wasn't built to be an apartment building.
Well, I go back to we can sell it, somebody's gotta insure it.
Yeah.
Well, first you gotta get that answer. You can't make any decision until you know it's insurable, how much it would cost, and
Right.
Well, I'm waiting,
So-
I made the phone call.
The insurance game's
6 hours
different
ago.
when you're a private entity
Right.
versus a public entity.
Yeah.
So as a private entity, I can get buildings insured that the town couldn't.
Correct.
Or
Yeah,
You know, Jeff and Sandy couldn't get it.
Correct.
So there is leeway there. So just because the town can't get insurance doesn't mean that
yeah,
Right,
somebody else can.
but still, the reason we're here is because I was asked to do my job,
Mhm.
so I'm not saying people didn't do their job, I'm just saying the phone could have been picked up a long time ago from my office.
One other thing that we haven't talked about that should be just out. Currently, we sublet our municipal department, our plowing, our sanding, and all the things that have public works. There may be a day when we're not able to, or it's not cost effective to. And I think we need to present that in with whatever we're thinking of doing over there. We need to calculate that into the equation, that there may be a day when we need that piece of property to operate our town.
Right.
And I'm concerned with converting that into just a town office
Sure.
and doing away with the option of having,
Right now, you can keep it as that.
So I've done a little bit of research on that. And what I found is that several towns, both here in Piscataquis and Penobscot County, with similar demographics, similar mill rates, have public works departments that run on $450,000 to $475,000 a year budgets with 4 or 5 full-time people. And I think we're paying $450 just for the contract.
And how good is it?
So,
then you get equipment.
well, that, we
Nobody
di-
wants my opinion on that one.
so with that, we digress, right? Because we're not focused on the task at hand with that. The task at hand is, that's a whole different,
it does
Issue.
calculate in when we present the option of.
right,
putting
so
a
we're
town hall
taking
there.
away public works area that could be a public works area.
That needs to be part of that
Right.
proposal.
Yeah.
So,
It's a reason why not, you know, why we won't touch that.
But it still needs to be presented.
It
as,
does.
Right,
If we
yeah.
do this, we're gonna lose that.
but also, as far as public works goes, the analysis needs to be done on the budget, right? And how much work before was getting done that we still had to contract out because it wasn't getting done by public works. How much is getting done now? And what is getting done, and how much are we getting our bang for our buck?
Correct.
I can tell you, if you go over by
5
Toby,
hours is the loop for sand truck.
if you go, well, it's way beyond just sanding and plowing. Right? If you go over to Toby Cleaves, just before it turns to the hot top, that looks like brand new ditching. It just got finished up, right at the corner of East Sangerville Road and Flanders Hill Road. That's all been taken care of because I went by there the other day and the water was pulling up over the road, so what's gonna happen in November?
Correct.
Right, so those are the things that I have to do on a daily is take those analysis and fix those.
Too bad you didn't do in between those two though.
Jody's been out there.
Because when it rained, those culverts on Cleves are clogged solid full. When you go into Peggy's driveway, you see there's no culvert there, but if you go down there, there's a culvert. It's just covered over.
Oh, he went all the way from the field where it washes out,
Yeah,
all the way up the hill.
Up
Where-
the hill.
Up past the asphalt.
yeah. But then he went down to the corner, but in between, that's where the pooling is, and that's where it freezes in the wintertime, because it comes down, runs right in the road and comes right down the road instead of the ditch.
So he was just in my office today, and we were talking about finishing out the rest of the stuff that needs to be done for Flanders. The reason it didn't all get done in the way Sangerville wants it done is because I've never seen this guy work before. And before I spent thousands of dollars of the town's money,
Proof in the pudding.
I needed to see the proof in the pudding.
Awesome.
Not just,
I forgot my phone at home, I was gonna show you the pictures.
I was out there this morning.
I mean, I just show you pictures in the.
Oh, I'm like,
Well,
so
I like that you're being conscientious with our money.
I try.
So what's the next step?
I don't like Leavenworth. I was never there.
What's the next step with this committee.
So one is, how often do we want to meet to do this? Then the other thing is task and purpose. It's gonna have to be who wants to go into certain things to dissect, to give me the information to build the products.
So when would you like to have another meeting? Or we already have mentioned that we need the meeting to be later.
Yeah.
I
I
work,
have to work, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
I work for you.
Well, who,
Just don't call me late for dinner, that's all I care.
Say 5:30, 6 o'clock?
when would you like to have the meeting?
6 o'clock.
Yeah, 6
5:30,
o'clock.
6 o'clock?
You have time to get a bite to eat and then make it here.
Well, we don't.
No, cause we're gonna have potluck, Chris.
Yeah,
No, baked
You
beans.
said you're gonna make beans.
Beans and snappers, I mean, if you can't eat that, you're not, your birth certificate says somewhere else.
I'll be late then.
So we're talking 6, and now we gonna bring food, or what are we doing?
I mean, I don't care about it, but
No, I don't think
I,
we need to
if we,
make
if we
it
eat on our way,
expensive.
I mean, if I get caught up, I'll just grab something from the
Because this meeting has been really informative, and it's been,
Yeah.
it's been very
been very
good,
positive.
and it's a very positive meeting considering some of the meetings I've been to, what few I've been to that have been that way.
Correct.
So,
This has been very
congratulations
good.
and thank you very much for holding a wonderful meeting.
So I will get my pink slip and I'm fired next week, right?
I have a
No
funny
way.
feeling if that happens, I think you might find a little bit of a rebellion arise
Yes.
for you.
And I think that the reason, this is a good meeting, it was extremely productive, people were listening, there were a lot of great ideas. I think it's important that the greater town knows about it.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
I would suggest that there be some kind of, it doesn't have to be more than a paragraph or two, that says that this meeting occurred, why did it occur?
Yeah.
What was discussed, that there's another meeting, if anyone wants to come to that meeting, it's on Monday at 6 o'clock in the firehouse. But make it look productive and use this tomorrow when you have that person here. That you have a group of townspeople who are working over and talking about and problem solving to try and bring Sangerville to life again. And I think you use that as leverage, weighted leverage. And I think when people start hearing that productive things are going on, civil things are going on,
Yeah.
then they're gonna be involved in it as well. And I think it's important to let people know.
And so, and the reason that I think tonight was because nobody passed judgment on anything, right? It was
But you maintained the meeting that way, so nobody did.
it was a think
That
tank.
was the key.
But I think everybody's ready for solutions too. It's been
Well,
stressful for everybody, it's been upsetting for everybody, and everybody, some people think some people are mad at other people, and they're
Right.
really not.
No,
As far as I
they're
know,
mad at
none
the
of us
subject.
are upset or mad at anybody here.
They're mad at the subject.
We're upset with the
Yes.
situation
That's right.
and no resolution of the situation.
So, can we do, what, every 2 weeks? That would put us, so next week is town selectmen meeting, right?
So do bi-weekly meetings.
So if we do it on the off Monday from town selectmen meetings, then that gives me the opportunity to prep and brief the board at the meetings. And lo and behold, it gives me the opportunity to brief 124 people that listened to the last meeting, which is record breaking, by the way, I just wanted to say that. And it's not because of my charisma.
So next Monday night, there's a selectmen's meeting?
Wednesday,
Next Wednesday?
yeah, the
So
4th.
it'd be the second and fourth.
It'd be the 16th, yeah, so the next one that we do would be the 16th at 6 o'clock,
So it's just every other Monday.
every other
What
Monday.
time is the selectmen's meeting? I know you told me.
16th or 9? Or 9 could be there, would be there.
Wednesday, the 4th at 4
Oh, yeah.
o'clock.
But it's Columbus Day.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know
why
what
I
the date
skipped,
is.
so let's
Okay,
do the
it's next
16th.
Wednesday
So
at
let's
4
get
o'clock.
Next Wednesday.
16th.
Well, we can use a dry erase board
Yeah.
or something
This one is
as
the
we're talking.
16th.
So write
Same
down
place?
highlight points.
Yeah, we will. So the next, I think, like, to get some bullet points, right, down
Yeah.
on paper, we need to task orient some individuals to do some of this stuff, right? The environmental, and I'm not saying we go ask for one, let's just say, what happens if we open up this can of worms? That's what we need to know, right? How much does this cost? And it gotta be a number between this and this and that, if we go up there, right? Cause what could cost us $300 a square foot to build a new building might turn into $3,000 a square foot because of remediation.
If that's all on fill, I mean, how good is the fill that you're gonna be putting in the
So,
building on?
right, so we need the, not the ground level, we need the 20,000 foot elevation of, if we open up this, what happens? So we need somebody to do the research and study that part of things, right?
And we need to see if this is even purchasable.
And then we need somebody to find out if that's even, you know, an option. We need to know if, you know, if somebody wants to say, hey, I think making that a community center and going that route, that's a great option. You know, I think if we build something up at the park, so we need to have individuals, it's almost like, you know, your homework. You got the little buddy groups that work on the little projects. Because we need to know what it's gonna cost at the end of the day, because at the end of the day, it's all driven by the mill rate. And is anybody willing to go up, you know, a couple more points just to get this satisfied and taken care of, you know? Cause I mean, I have competing requirements. I got a fire department, right? We got public works, we got roads that need to be taken care of, we got facilities that are dilapidating. You know, there's all these things that feed what I have to maintain. So, I mean, if we just do sign up and somebody does the sign up, you know, hey, I'll take this, I'll do this.
So you're gonna have sign-up sheets for the next meeting for us to sign up? Well, no, but we need to know what you need signed up.
Yeah, we need to know
That's I'm saying.
what needs to be done.
What needs to be done, that would be nice, that
So you're gonna-
So the next one I have due outs for you.
So we need a chore
That's
list.
right.
Yes,
Chore list,
yeah, true.
I mean, we could come up with.
pop them out.
Yeah,
She said do a write-up. I always go to the Sangerville website. But I was Googling something else and I see your thing, it was in Sangerville, Maine, I didn't even know we had a Sangerville, Maine thing about this meeting. So where are you gonna post the?
it'll be on that one that Sam always posts the, you know, roads benefit, the road work, the, you know, all of those things.
The town.
Where is
On the
that?
town
She
site
just
or
started
on
that.
Facebook?
She just
Oh,
started.
Facebook,
Just
just
started
on Facebook.
I don't
Is
know.
it on Facebook and on
It was
the-
on, we'll never go there.
It was about a week ago, she started using Facebook.
Yeah, well, so we had a page and it was, kinda went on the silent. And so I had Sam start putting stuff
Yeah,
on.
I think.
How many people live in Sangerville, do you know that?
1,300.
Yeah,
So that would be a lot of letters.
I think you do need to use one format, whether it's the, you know, and if that's not user-friendly, perhaps that needs to be made user-friendly. I mean, I don't do Facebook, which that doesn't mean I don't need to be informed, but I think, years ago, what happened was when everyone was doing emails, what happened was, people got a hold of the whole email.
List.
Yeah,
Yeah, and then a lot of.
A mess.
Yeah,
Yeah, junk.
yeah,
so somebody doesn't know how to
and
blind
that is
copy.
hard,
yeah.
that is hard.
Right, so we're at, for example, the Sangerville website, people can't post to it, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
their comments.
Right,
That
you don't
is-
want that.
Right.
Can you, under the, when you listen to the meeting, there is a place for comment?
Yeah, we
Oh, is
will.
there?
Well,
Oh,
yeah.
and that's through,
Yeah, but I think you gotta have administrative rights. So yeah, I'll sort that out. How we're gonna communicate.
Can you
One
also
plat-
post it on the historical page?
Yeah,
Can
yeah.
is that a Facebook?
Well, that's how,
Is that a Facebook
Yes.
format?
yeah. So, but, if somebody pulls it off of the website, the town website,
But the more places that it,
Sure,
that
sure,
it's
that's fine.
concrete.
Yes,
If it's concrete on the town, same thing as
Yeah.
what we said,
Sure,
same thing.
right,
as
you
what we
mirror,
said.
yes.
Then more people will find out about
Yeah,
it. It can't
it
be
is Like,
gossip, chatter,
Right.
flottity, flottity.
Right.
And you know what I'm talking about, I've seen it, I've heard it.
No, not the one.
And it's not you guys' fault.
Yeah.
This one here's that one, and that
Oh,
one here's
yeah.
this one, and then they change
Can I make a
everything.
suggestion before we get too worried about how we're gonna distribute
Yeah.
this? Let's worry about what our message is gonna be.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
think
Good
if
call.
to get to that point,
Correct.
do you have in mind specific areas, even if it's not well developed as a task list, that you'd like to start working on, sign up for and volunteering? Because I know you got legal insurance questions, I'm happy to volunteer for
Yep.
those. So, you know, if we can, the faster we can start moving, the better.
Yep.
So to the extent that we can, whether we do it on the whiteboard or just do it verbally, break down some large functional areas.
Yes.
maybe 5, 6 of them.
Yep,
Get somebody to chair those, each of those areas, and let's get moving ahead for the next meeting and start getting some real agenda points.
yes,
And remember that our big objective, you know, though all of us may have in the heart of hearts to say the town hall, but our objective in being here is figuring out how we're gonna have a functional town office
Right.
space. And that's a long-term vision, and, you know, in part of that, I think too, we gotta look at, okay, if we get it fixed up and it's 100% beautiful and just like new, what the heck's it gonna be used for?
and what's gonna happen to it next?
Right, and what's the future of the town? Because, you know, that's gotta be part of a longer term vision of what the heck that area is gonna be.
Yeah.
So, to the extent you have those, like I say, I'd love to volunteer for legal and insurance.
Yeah, so I'll just leave that.
If anyone knows something concrete.
They want concrete, you want concrete, sign, you know, I need the emails and phone numbers and what task it is. If somebody wants to do, honestly, the, you know, hazmat or the environmental study, what it could potentially cost, then that's it. If we're
Hazmat,
talking to
yeah.
Gordon's and seeing about, you know, what this, just sign up and I'll start
You
running,
talk to Gordon's,
cause
sign.
Cause I, like, this is where it's difficult for me to learn, because 6 months ago, nobody would've had a choice, I'd have just been like, but,
There you go, please all.
I work for you, so now I have to kinda ask you nicely instead of just giving you the knife hand and say, you're doing.
But you can be direct and, yeah.
No, I know,
Say what you think.
I know that.
Yeah.
So we've established what we need, right? We need, you know, we fix, buy, sell, or
Yeah, you
build.
just gotta collect
So
information.
now the information needs to be pumped in, so people just need to sign up on what part of that information they wanna pump. And then I'll help with what I need for information, you
And
know,
who's
what
best
is the
suited for that information, like who
Right.
has legal knowledge, who's
Right.
best suited to help.
501c3, you know?
Yeah, anyone.
I know Lee's wife is big into that, so we can reach out to her and get her to help with whatever 501c might look like, because if we were to form that committee in town, right, and that was to be the way to go forward, we're gonna need that experience. And how long does that take to push through the pipeline to get to where we're at, you know?
I think that the message is we're all coming together and gonna become a community again.
That's the message
Yes.
that will get put out, is, you
That's-
know, the fractured at its core is starting to heal, and we're starting to come together to fix the solution,
I think
which
that's
is,
important.
yeah.
Absolutely.
That message out there is
Yes,
important.
that's the basis, yep.
I remember just a few years ago, we used to have town meeting in this building,
Yeah.
and you couldn't
Listen.
even, we had tables a whole length, you couldn't even get in
Food
the
and you
building.
got to see
It
everybody.
was food, and it was, we
Yeah.
all
Yeah, it
looked
was
forward
wonderful.
to it.
You would have loved that they had the lunch.
It was wonderful.
So I'm gonna tell you,
Food is to
the
die
last time
for.
that happened, I probably did apply to that position at that time when it was announced, but
It was an opportunity for the Historical Society to make money.
It was good
and
food.
sold goods.
I liked officer pay too.
Right, now the town meetings on a weeknight.
I think
We
there's some
need to
of
work
those
on
things
that
that you need
too.
to work towards becoming.
Go back to
Yeah.
Saturday, and that was so much nicer.
Yeah, Parkman has their Saturday at noon.
Yeah.
So and if you walk out of here and you say, you know, cause you didn't sign up, just sign up, I'll drive the train, don't worry. we'll get the information and stuff. But if you leave and you're like, well, I probably should have, just call the office and let us know that,
Sign
you
it
know,
up for what you
I'll
said.
be on a new build. You know, I'm okay with doing a new build up here. I'm okay doing, you know, I wanna research this project, or I wanna research that project.
Chris,
I knew it is.
You can.
What are you signing up for?
I like black coffee.
The
and Dunkin'
environmental
Donuts.
impact study and
so
ramifications
Chris,
of
what would
that.
that be good
And-
for?
I had already done
Oh,
some,
also,
Can I start?
I had already done some research about